India will continue to bring back Indians, people of Indian origin and India's friends from Afghanistan. But will the August 31 deadline hamper Operation Devi Shakti? I spoke to Union Minister Hardeep Puri earlier this evening. Let's listen in. Amid chants of Satnam Shri Vaheguru, 3 swarups of the Shri Guru Granth Sahib Ji on his head, the Union Minister Hardeep Puri carried the swarups on his head from the Delhi airport, and he joins me on this special broadcast. Mr. Puri, welcome on India First. We saw those images, the nation saw those images, and in a way it shows the hardships that Sikhs and Hindus and others are facing in Afghanistan. So, you spoke to a number of those who were evacuated from Afghanistan. What's the latest that you can tell us about the situation that they shared with you?
You know, this is a fast-changing situation. It is a situation which is evolving by the minute. My interaction to that extent is already a day old. I had the privilege of being at the airport, or being designated to go to the airport, and unique opportunity to pay obeisance to the swarups and to do seva. There are 13 swarups, as per information I have, which were available in Afghanistan in the Gurdwara Sahibs. Out of these, 7 were brought in earlier. 3 came yesterday by the flight from Dushanbe. And I'm told, as we speak, 3 more are perhaps on the way or are likely to come very shortly, along with about 200 passengers. You know, Sikhism, Sikh heritage, in that Afghanistan occupies a very unique position. Guru Maharaj, Guru Nanak Dev Ji went there in 1521. He went twice, made 2 journeys. His second Udasi or journey. And the Sikh heritage has evolved, it has spread. The current events in Afghanistan are, in a sense, part of a process that we have seen in play for a while. If you remember correctly, I think it was March 2020 last year, when there was a attack on the Gurdwara Sahib in Kabul. And on that occasion, some of our brethren came to India. I recall going to the airport to receive them. The situation is difficult.
So do you see this as a pause, or do you see this as a full stop? I mean, given this long history and these civilizational ties.
I am a believer that we all are privileged to be somehow associated with this situation in a small way. You know, I can share with you, I don't think Sikh heritage will have a pause, or there will be a full stop anywhere. I mean, it is a religion with a strongly entrenched sense of seva. And I think I told you, even at the height of the sectarian conflict in Syria, we had people doing langar seva there. Will the Sikhs abandon that seva? No. Will they abandon it in a place of conflict? No. Gurdwara Sahib, whether in Pakistan or Afghanistan, will continue. Whether the authorities there have a disposition towards it which is benign or positive or not so benign, it's not for me to judge. But the Sikh community, the religion and the seva will continue. I'll tell you, it's a very interesting tradition. You know, what is the significance of the swarup? You know, we had 10 gurus.
Yes.
The 10th guru, Guru Gobind Singh Ji, decided to incorporate the wisdom and the teachings of his
predecessors,
father into this. We don't have any more gurus,
yes,
but the distilled wisdom of their teachings is incorporated in the Holy Granth. That is the beauty of it. Now, you don't need to have a formalized, this thing. You can take the Holy Granth and put it anywhere, and the worshippers, the disciples will draw their inspiration, and
those who are still trapped in Afghanistan,
we'll get them out. This is what Durga Shakti is all about.
So this Operation Devi Shakti will continue.
Devi Shakti will continue.
But there is a deadline of 31st of August. How do we work around that?
Gaurav, that deadline is an administrative or set by one of the important stakeholders. Whether they will have reason to extend that deadline based on their own requirements. Because when you have a difficult situation on the ground and you're racing against time, it's one way to set the deadline. Another thing, you need to get your people out. So I don't want to wade into that. Or if they decide not to assume that responsibility, somebody else does.
So,
but human situations which have a humanitarian streak, they will always find a way around it. I'm very confident on that. As far as India is concerned,
so it's not just the Hindus, it's not just Indian citizens or people of Hindu or Sikh origin. Are we only bringing them back?
No, we have never turned our back on anyone. You see, there's a false narrative which some of our friends try to push out, which is that this is about X or Y. No, the sentiment is about a persecuted minority. Okay, it so happens in the neighborhood where the dominant faith is the other, the persecuted minorities are the Hindus and Sikhs. But the Citizenship Amendment Act was about Nagarikta, citizenship. That is very different from providing refuge, for providing succor to people who are under difficulty. Mother India, and especially Prime Minister Modi's India, which has a government which is committed to its people, no matter where they are, I think that is what we are trying to do just now. Now, whom we will bring back, how many of them will be Muslims or what, that's not for me to judge. I'm talking about the Seva Bhavana and what the Indian state is doing in terms of providing a response to a very difficult situation. And I think everybody in India appreciates that, everybody outside. We are one of the few countries which are able to do it.
Minister, you referred to the Citizenship Amendment Act. There are some who are now saying that this CAA, the deadline needs to be extended to 2021 to accommodate those who you're bringing in. Two questions, if I may. Is that an indication that they're not going back at all? And is that also an indication of a change of heart, perhaps?
Well, I know whom you have in mind. And one or two of them have had occasion in the last few days. One of them is, in fact, referred to a tweet I put out. And basically the purpose was, I wanted to say, I told you so, but I didn't say I told you so. I said, when we take political positions, we should be extremely conscious that there are some things which we may not know about. That a situation in our neighborhood might evolve into one that may require us to open our arms and allow our people who are umbilically tied to us. Citizenship is a document, all right, it's important. What do you do if there is a complete chaos somewhere? Are you going to say, no, you don't have an Indian document, I won't let you come in? It's a determination which the Home Ministry will make, which our concerned authorities will make. Look, one of them said, and this is somebody who was, I would say, a known critic who took pride in criticism of the CA, said ki iska aap wo jo cut-off date badha do. So I think that's a change of position. As far as I'm concerned, I'm glad that some of them are seeing reason, even though somewhat belatedly. But I shouldn't use the word. I think they're a bit sheepish. You see, you first criticize something that the government has done, and then you become a demander. You say that 2014 nahi, isko 2021 kar lo. Right? You have a responsible government headed by a Prime Minister who has a very visionary view on these things. So I think very often, I'll tell you something. One of the young leaders, aspiring leaders, the Yuva Neta, I saw his tweet somewhere that this is XYZ word fascist. I don't know what he's talking about. Are you going to turn around when a situation is fast deteriorating in any country? I'm not talking about Afghanistan. Say, I won't take you back because, I have a particular view on this. So I think we are now in a stage where some people who have made irresponsible statements in the Punjab Assembly later on now, they're not entirely conversant with what the ground reality is.
And when we talk about ground realities, Minister, will we see a fallout in this region? You were heading, when you were a permanent representative at the United Nations in your earlier avatar, as chairman of that
1373 committee.
1373
counter-terrorism committee.
Will it have an impact in that region and the fallout in Jammu and Kashmir?
I'll tell you something very interesting about the 1373 committee. It was established as a new committee of the Security Council after the 9/11 attacks. And if memory serves me right, they had decided at that point of time that the Adhyakshta or the chair of the 1373 committee would only be amongst the permanent members of the Security Council. Now, the permanent members of the Security Council don't normally head committees, but they thought terrorism was such a serious issue that counter-terrorism committee would be headed by a member of the P5. I remember when it came to India's election, we won what, 186 votes out of 191 in the election. And many people suggested that India should chair the counter-terrorism committee because India knows more about the counter-terrorism issue, having been at the receiving end.
Yeah.
And at that point of time, one or two countries tried to oppose. But I remember many P5, including the Americans and the Russians, said, no, we would welcome an Indian chairmanship, and we headed it very successfully. In fact,
some of those, if I may, on that 1267 sanctions committee,
that's a separate committee.
That's a separate committee. Those who are on that, listed there, will now be a part of a government.
Well, I'll tell you something.
I
would definitely not want to comment on how the Security Council or the 1267 issue is taken up, because this is an evolving situation. All I can tell you is that India has a long history of dealing with these issues. India has an understanding of these issues, and all I can tell you is that this government, Prime Minister Modi's government, has also a proactive desire and commitment to resolve these issues. So I think whenever we deal with these issues in the coming weeks or months, etc., there will be.
Will there be a fallout at the LOC?
No, you are going into areas of security policy. And
no, because one of the Pakistani leaders of Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, she made a comment that Taliban will help us win Kashmir.
I would say that the statements of this kind are better left not dignified. So let's leave that aside.
And there is an all-party...
I'll tell you something.
Yes, sir.
I'll tell you. United States spent 20 years there. You can quarrel on the amount of resources that were expended. I've seen a figure of trillion. I've seen a figure of... Before that, another superpower spent many years there. I'm a student of history. The Turks came in there, and many of the rulers of that period decided to come more towards South India, the Mughal emperors, rather than go there, because it's a difficult terrain to manage. Let's leave these things for the moment. The important thing is today, in that difficult situation, we need to bring some of our people and some others to evacuate them. And after that, our government will take considered views on how it wishes to address issues like, and we're not the only government in the world. I mean, you will have the Western world, you will have the other countries in the world addressing the similar situation which is evolving. Each one will look at it, seeing how best to deal with it.
Fair enough, Minister. There's an all-party meeting that's happening. What do we expect from that?
Not for me to comment on that. Like a good student of the situation, you and I will be both watching the deliberations there and the outcome with interest.
Fair enough. That was Minister Hardeep Singh Puri. Many thanks for speaking to us here at India Today.